All right, welcome back to the shop, everyone. I am the Bad Blacksmith, and this is another episode of the Bad Blacksmith. Let's try that again. Welcome back, everyone. I am the Bad Blacksmith, and today's episode is going to be the much anticipated and long-awaited review of the Hell's Forge. So, it's another beautiful day in sunny Colorado. I'll jump to a shot of the snow coming down. Seems like every time I try to film a video lately, it's snowing or cold. I don't know if you can see my breath, but it's coming out. So today's episode is going to be about the Hell's Forge, and I'm going to cover a couple of things. So let's roll the intro and let's get going. All right, first I want to say that I am not in any way associated with Hell's Forge. I'm not being paid for this, and I'm not being sponsored by this. I'm simply doing this because there isn't quite enough information out there, not only for Hell's Forge, but for forgers in general. So my goal is to cover a lot of the things that I wish I had seen before I had spent so much time trying to research and couldn't find, if that makes sense. I don't know. Anyway, this review is going to cover features of what the Forge has and what it doesn't have. I'm going to go over a bit of the setup and the quality, and then I'll end with some operating tips, and I'll ramble on a bit. So I'm sure by now you're caught up in all of the excitement and asking, gee, Mr. the Bad Blacksmith, what does the Hell's Forge feature? What does the Hell's Forge feature? Well, I'm glad you asked, because the Hell's Forge features 1, 2 burners, depending on the model that you get. The one that I've got and the one that I've been using is the 2-burner version. Very well constructed. The welds are all really nice looking. It's very well constructed. It has the walls of the forge itself are very thick. I believe they're around 15 thousandths of an inch. It's 9 by 9 or 9 by 18 by 18 is what the measurements said on it. And it's coated with 2300 degree paint. And I'll show you in a clip that I recorded in an earlier session where I got the burner up to 2100 degrees. And essentially, you can put your hand on the outside of the burner, and it won't do anything. The wool comes with wool already put inside of it, already preheated or pre-treated and properly heat treated, which means that it's brought up the temperature slowly and over time. Which I guess slowly means. Anyways, another feature is that the way it's set up, it works basically with any size propane tank, all the way from the very small ones all the way up to, I got a 70-pound tank, and I'm looking at supplementing that with a 100-pound tank. And speaking of tanks, it's extremely efficient. The way it's constructed and the way it's put together, it works really, really efficiently. I bought that tank in basically the beginning of November and filled it up on the day before Thanksgiving. And that was only because I was going to do some recording and I wanted to make sure that I didn't run out of gas. It was close, and I probably could have made it, but I wanted to make sure anyways. So I went and filled it up. And that's a 70-pound tank. I'll put in the comment, or not in the comments, I'll put right here how long the regular size tank will last. Some other nice things about this, I know it's not a feature, but it kind of is. It's affordable. Now, I know you look at the price and say, that's pretty damn expensive at $250 to $300, but it really isn't. When you consider the quality and how well it works and how well it's put together, It's really not all of that bad, especially when you start to look at other two-burner forges that start around $500. Now, I hear you, there are some out there that are very much less expensive. A lot of those come with one burner, and that's probably fine to get started with, but you're going to run out of, you're going to need more than that because the one burner forges are pretty small. And there's another one out there called the Devil's Forge. Now, you want to be careful of that one. That one's made in Lithuania. It's a good forge, but it's not made with very good quality parts. You'll read a lot of reviews on it. Everybody seems to like it. Not doubting that. But the thing that makes this one better is that it's well constructed with good quality parts and comes nearly put together. You literally have to connect the hoses to the red burners, put the burners in the forge, and connect the high pressure hose to the tank, and you're done. The other one, you've got to have all of the tape, you've got to have all the parts, you've got to have the tools to put it together, and the time. So Hell's Forge, clearly a winner in that regard. So coming pre-assembled like that really does make it a breeze to set up and actually get started. So, Mr. the Bad Blacksmith, what doesn't the forge come with? I'm glad you asked. It doesn't come with a thermocoupler. The next thing is it doesn't come with a propane tank. I mean, seriously. Can you imagine what it would take to have a propane tank boxed up with the forge and sent over? There's two other things that I was honestly very disappointed that this forge didn't come with. The first is batteries. It did not come with batteries. I had to search for batteries. I never found any. I did find some blinker fluid at the parts store. I don't know what that's for, but I found some. And the next thing it doesn't come with is talent, which is really disappointing because I was hoping to get something that I could use out of it. You know what I mean? I was hoping for some talent.
Repeat after me. I have no talent.
I have no talent.
All right, as I mentioned, this is a quality forge made with quality parts. All of the fittings are brass. The hose is a high-pressure rubber hose as opposed to a cheaper, less expensive, thinner rubber plastic hose. Outside of putting the few pieces that come together, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, basically 6 steps to setting this up. You screw the burners onto the hose parts onto the burner tubes. You put the burner tubes in the forge. There's 2 of them if you buy this version. You connect the high pressure hose that goes over the tank, and you connect the tank, and you're done. I mean, how easy can it be? The only way it would be easier if it came in a giant box, pre-assembled for you. But I mean, it's so simple. You don't actually need that. There's a couple things to know that or to do. When you put the burners in, you need to line them up. You put your hand in and you lower it down. Now the bottom of the burner should be even with the bottom. Now you can lower it down up to 1 inch, but it is recommended to keep the burners level with the ceramic wool. The next thing you need to do when you're setting this up is put the bricks, the fire bricks that come with it. It comes with 2. So what you do is you put the fire bricks inside, and they basically fill the bottom of the forge and create a table to set things on. The next thing is to make sure that you don't put this forge on anything that's flammable. While you could probably do that and get away with it, remember, this is a forge. It gets extremely hot. So put the forge on something that's not going to catch on fire. All right, just be safe. And then lastly, make sure that when you connect the tank onto the forge itself, pull the tank away. You also want to make sure that when you pull it out that you're putting just a little bit of tension on the hose so that it doesn't sag and rest against the outside of the forge. Now, the outside of the forge is coated with heat paint and can get up to 2,300 degrees without causing any problems. But that's assuming that it's working perfectly. There is always a chance that something isn't going to work perfectly and could melt the hose, cause a problem, and blow up in your face. So don't do that. Okay, I went inside and grabbed some coffee real quick. Coffee on a cold day is amazing and delicious. Really warms you up. And I'm a big fan of coffee. Love the stuff. All right, so a few quick tips and tricks. I don't really know that they're tricks, but there are some tips. First, let's talk about the chokes. All right. If you're using a single burner, the one you're not using, you should have the choke lifted all the way up and preventing any air from coming in or coming out. Because if you don't, it basically acts like a chimney and allows hot air to come up. Now that's really not any good, not only because you're losing heat, but it's not good for any of the brass or any of the rubber fittings or anything like that. So if you're using a single burner, the second burner should have the choke all the way up. Second, when you turn the forge off, take the choke and put it all the way up and close it off. Again, because you don't want that open burner to act like a chimney. You don't want all that hot air to come rising out of it and go out into the atmosphere. Let it go through the openings in the front and the back. So do that. When you are using a burner, make sure the choke is all the way down. It doesn't have to be on there at all. So the pressure from the gas regulates how much air is sucked in through the holes in the pipes or in the tubes. There you go. So the more pressure you have, the more air gets sucked in there, the mixture is balanced, and it comes out exactly the way it should come out. Next, basically, a single burner is really all you need, unless you're doing bigger pieces. Again, I'll show you, I've got some footage where I had a single burner going, and within less than 10 minutes, I got the inside of the forge up to 2100 plus degrees on the inside, which is plenty for what you would really need to do for anything. If you do need to do something that's going to take up more space, you do have the option of the second burner, which is amazing. So there you go. It's for most of what you do, you use one burner. For bigger pieces, you've got that option for a second burner. The question was, does this thing get hot enough to do forge welding? The answer was, absolutely, it does. You can do forge welding with this. And I said, cool, let's try it. And I failed over and over and over again. And finally, I reached out on the line for a couple of the forums, and I said, hey, what am I doing wrong? And one guy on there said, do you have it all the way up? And I said, well, not really. I got it up so that it's hot. And he said, no, crank that thing up. So when I finally made it work, I had both burners going, and I had that pressure regulator wide open. And it really does get hot enough to forge weld. You can forge weld with this thing, and it is amazing. Be careful, when you're forge welding and you got the pressure up that high and you got that much heat and that much flame, it gets extremely hot. It does a great job at welding. And if you're gonna weld, the tip is crank that sucker all the way up and let it go, and then enjoy. So, final thoughts. I really, really like this forge. I can't say enough about how awesome it is, how easy it is to use, how well it's constructed, and how well it's put together. It is absolutely amazing. Another thing that I want to point out is that a lot of the comments and a lot of the things you'll see, not only in forums, but in other reviews and other things, is that this is great for beginners. Don't get wrapped up in the beginner part. It's not just for beginners. It is an amazing forge for beginners and for anybody else that wants to buy it and use it. Keep that in mind. That's a great tip. Initially, when I started this, I was like, cool, I'm gonna be a craftsman, and I'm gonna cut that thing and make my own forge out of parts and stuff. And I did some research and found a parts list for some burners that I thought were pretty okay. One day after payday, I said, all right, let's go do this. I went to Home Depot, spent an hour, maybe an hour and a half, wandering around the plumbing aisle and couldn't find what I needed. And I said, all right, well, this isn't working out. I put all the parts back, and then I went over to Lowe's. I spent probably another hour to an hour and a half in Lowe's with the same results. Basically, I ended up being frustrated, and I left empty-handed from both stores. Not only that, but the parts I was able to find, I was already around $30 to $45, depending on which store I was at, for a part of the list. It didn't include anything else that I needed for the burners. And not only that, but it didn't include fire bricks, it didn't include the fire wool, it didn't include any of the stuff that you need to, the refractory stuff that you need to treat the wool with. After that is when I decided to go searching online. I decided to go on the line and search for an affordable forge that I could just buy. Putting your own forge together, excellent idea if you can do it. It's probably a very rewarding exercise, and I would recommend it for anybody that can do it. If you're like me and you don't really have the patience or the knowledge or the spare parts laying around your shed or garage or shop or whatever it may be, I can't say enough about how much better it was to just buy it, have it delivered, set it up, and start using it. Speaking of buying it, you do want to look. It's available on Amazon, eBay, and Etsy. Now, you do want to try to find something available on eBay and Etsy. If you need to shop on Amazon for some reason, by all means, shop on Amazon. But the prices on eBay and Etsy are going to be a little bit cheaper because Amazon charges a little higher fee for selling products on Amazon. So if you need to use Amazon, by all means use it. This is a great forge. You should buy it, regardless of where you're getting it from. But if you're going to get it, if you're looking for a better price, eBay and Etsy are going to be your best choice. And that's about it. I can't really think of much else to say about this. It's an amazing forge. I absolutely love it. And I look forward to using it every time I turn it on. So if you've watched this and you've made it all the way through, thank you. I appreciate it. If you've noticed something that I missed, leave a comment in the comment section below so that anybody else that's watching this will have an opportunity to read any conversations that we have or any things that you mention that should be mentioned and I missed. So let's do that. Also, as always, if you like the content, you like what you see, and you want to follow along, please hit the subscribe button. Again, for the rest of the year, all of my subscriptions are absolutely free. I just got this. I got a whole portfolio full of internet points. So if you sign up, I will send you 100 internet points to use any way you like. So hit the subscribe button and then hit the bell so that you can be notified and make Google employees nuts. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.